Here we go. The time has finally arrived. Duke basketball is getting ready for the NCAA Tournament. It's a game tonight against Vermont. Let's talk about it here on this Friday episode of Locked On Blue Devils.
Hi, everybody. Dick Vitale. Hey, make sure you listen, man, to Locked On Blue Devils with J.J. Jackson. He's awesome, baby.
You are Locked On Blue Devils, your daily podcast on the Duke Blue Devils, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into an episode of the Locked On Blue Devils podcast. My name is JJ Jackson, the host of this program. Locked On Blue Devils is your one-stop shop for everything going on in the life of Duke athletics, and game day has arrived. We're getting set for Duke in the NCAA Tournament tonight. From Brooklyn, they will take on Vermont. Very exciting matchup, and I got to bring back Kevin Connelly, the site expert for Ball Durham, who's actually going to be in attendance tonight in Brooklyn for this one. So excited to hear his thoughts going into the matchup. We heard from him a little bit earlier in the week and just had to bring him back here again because it's good stuff as always. If you have not done so already, please be sure to follow and subscribe to Locked On Blue Devils for free wherever it is that you get your podcasts. Also, make sure that you check us out on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. We are so close to 2,000 subscribers. I think we're going to be able to celebrate that next week, and really fired up to do that with you all here, the loyal listeners each and every day, for being with us on Locked On Blue Devils. So without further ado, NCAA tournament time has arrived. Kevin Connelly time has arrived, and he joins us here on today's show. Game day has finally arrived, Kevin.
It's the moment that everyone's been looking for. Season started in November, and finally excited to get it underway here in a couple hours in Brooklyn.
The big news that we saw yesterday, as Duke did meet with the media for the first time, Jon Scheyer took the podium. Several players did as well. First couple of games also took place on the Thursday edition of the NCAA Tournament first round. But the news for Duke, Jon Scheyer announcing that Caleb Foster is, in fact, out for the rest of the season. We've been speculating that a little bit throughout the course of this week. Thought maybe there was a chance later in the tournament, should Duke stay in it, that Caleb Foster could return. But I guess that's a little bit better for everybody just to know and understand, like, yeah, look, number one, Caleb Foster is not going to be back out there for Duke this season.
Yeah, I think the news was expected. Jon Scheyer did say that Caleb Foster wants to be out there. He tried to practice over this last week and just couldn't do it, just couldn't simply go, didn't have enough strength in that ankle. It's a stress fracture in his ankle that was suffered in the second half of Duke's loss against Wake Forest about a month ago now in late February. Hasn't played since. We've seen him in Cameron with a walking boot and one of those scooters to keep the weight off it. And I think as soon as we saw that, we knew it wasn't good, especially when you're in the boot and you're on a scooter. That typically isn't a very good sign. And we had seen him walking around, ditching the scooter, just using the boot. But after multiple opinions, Duke finally realizes that it's the best case for everybody just to shut him down and let him rehab and get fully healthy and ready for next season.
Duke was able to win a couple of games without Caleb Foster in the fold after the injury took place, but then again fell to North Carolina in the regular season finale, fell to NC State in the ACC Tournament quarterfinals. So we're kind of used to what this lineup looks like for Duke without that fourth guard in the mix, without the sixth starter, as Jon Scheyer has been calling for all season long. But the backcourt in particular, what does that now look like for Duke going into the NCAA Tournament?
Well, I think you're going to see a little bit of what you saw since Caleb Foster has been injured and hasn't been playing. So it's going to be a ton of minutes for the top three guards of Jeremy Roach, Tyrese, Proctor, and Jared McCain. And the one thing that Jon Scheyer has done since Caleb Foster has been hurt is he's gone bigger. That's when we've seen some more minutes for Sean Stewart. We've seen TJ Power get on the floor. It hasn't been as much Jalen Blakes as you would have thought. Now, certainly he will have his fair share of minutes, I think, tonight and perhaps going forward if Duke wins. But I think you're starting to see a little bit of a shift here with Duke and how Jon Scheyer was distributing the minutes since Caleb Foster has gotten hurt. And it's allowed, like I said, Sean Stewart to play. It's allowed Duke to play in a little bit of a different formula, especially offensively. So if Stewart and Power can come off the bench and provide quality good minutes, Duke will take it. I think they know what they're going to get if they put Jalen Blakes on the floor. You're not going to get somebody who scores a lot, but you're going to get a tough, hard-nosed, gritty defender out there. But I think you're really going to see, especially now here in the NCAA tournament, 35 minutes plus from the trio of McCain, Roach, and Proctor.
They're going to be ready for it. They've had a couple of games doing this already this season. And again, 3 is greater than 2 in terms of healthy and available guards for the Duke basketball team, right? We did see McCain kind of beat up there ahead of the ACC Tournament quarterfinal in warmups. He headbutted and collided with Jalen Blakes in kind of a warm-up defensive drill and had to have stitches above the eye. But it appears to be good to go for the NCAA tournament games. Got to hear from McCain this week in media portions. He's really excited to be playing in the NCAA tournament for the first time. And these big stages, you love when you get to see kind of guys take over their moment, live for moments like this and really take it on. And I think that Jared McCain is going to be one of those guys for Duke that does just that.
Yeah, and this is the moment these players have really worked for their entire lives. Now, you want to go back to that injury for Jared McCain, getting the stitches right above his eye minutes before tip-off of the ACC quarterfinal, and you could kind of tell it took him out of his rhythm. And Jon Scheyer even said it after the game. Jeremy Roach and Tyrese Proctor did not play well against North Carolina State. Jared McCain didn't play either. But I say he didn't play well, but he really wasn't involved in anything. Played almost 35 minutes. I think he only took 6, maybe 8 shots, just wasn't himself, didn't have that jump. And Jon Scheyer did say that he even thought it was the stitches took a lot of energy out of him. And I think you certainly saw that on the floor last Thursday night. And I think you're going to see a different Jared McCain on the floor tonight against Vermont just because he's going to have his legs underneath him. I think the stitches might have already been taken out for Jared McCain. They were just looking for a quick patch to try and get him to stop bleeding. So I think you're going to see the Jared McCain you saw to close the regular season in this NCAA tournament, however long it lasts for Duke.
Earlier this week, we talked a little bit about X factors for the Duke basketball team and highlighted Mark Mitchell and Jeremy Roach, and we'll certainly have more on them a little bit later today. I want to talk about Proctor, though, another guard who's going to get more time out there on the floor. He's played 40 minutes in several of the last few games here for Duke. The whole game out there on the floor. What do you think we can expect from number 5, Tyrese Proctor?
Well, I think the biggest thing is not turning the basketball over, right? You don't want to give Vermont or whoever you're playing, if it's James Madison or Wisconsin in the next round, if Duke wins today, you don't want to give them easy runouts, those live ball turnovers that always seem to end in points down the other way from the opposition. I think that's the biggest thing. And for the most part, Duke has done a good job of that this season. For Tyrese Proctor, he really can contribute in a lot of ways. Obviously, we know if his shot is falling, he can take over a game offensively. But one thing I think he did really well against North Carolina State when his shot wasn't falling, he really filled up the numbers in rebounding and assists. I want to see more of that from him, not necessarily only because his shot isn't falling. It's a good thing if you're not scoring to impact the game in other ways. But for him, you want to see that more consistently because really anyone on this team who grabs a rebound can run. I think that was the one thing we talked a lot about in the offseason. It was like they can run 1 through 5. As soon as anyone grabs the rebound, it's off to the races. And if Tyrese Proctor, who is a bigger guard and can get in and rebound, it's easier for this team to run because he's a natural ball handler, unlike if Kyle Filipowski was trying to run a fast break or Mark Mitchell.
Yeah, excited to see Proctor once again here on the big stage because, man, he played well in the 2 NCAA tournament games for Duke last season, particularly that round of 32 loss against Tennessee. Need Proctor to lead this Duke basketball team and fired up to see what we can get out of him. All right, we got to continue talking about this matchup with Vermont in particular and, again, preview Duke in the NCAA tournament with our good friend Kevin Connelly, the site expert from Ball Durham. But first, we need to take a timeout. Locked On Blue Devils here today, brought to you by one of our new friends here on the Locked On Podcast Network, and that is Manscaped. This episode is brought to you by the spring cleaning champions. That's right, Manscaped. Make sure you groom your carpets and the drapes with the leaders in below-the-waist grooming. Clear out the winter brush with Manscaped Lawnmower 5.0 and watch your confidence bloom like those springtime flowers. Embrace the season and join the 10 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with our special offer. Right now, go to manscaped.com and use code LOCKEDON for 20% off plus free shipping. Again, really excited about this. Their 5th generation trimmer features 2 interchangeable next-gen skin-safe blade heads, a standard one for taking the little off the top, and a new foil blade to go smooth wherever your heart desires. It also features dual LED spotlights to guide you through the darkest debris, navigate with confidence in your delicate areas. Once again, you can get 20% off and free shipping with code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON at manscaped.com. 20% off, free shipping, code LOCKEDON at manscaped.com. Nothing like a little spring cleaning in your pants. All right, our episode here today on Locked On is also brought to you by our friends at Game Time. When you're looking for last-minute tickets or just tickets in general, no better place to go than our friends over at Game Time. You shouldn't have to worry when you buy tickets to the next big event. Fast and easy way to buy tickets for all sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. Killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their price best guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. It's the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. You can see the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. They've got tickets up to the start of the event and even an hour after it starts. Again, that is the place to find last-minute seats. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Getting ready to move forward here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. JJ Jackson alongside my pal Kevin Connelly, who is the site expert for Ball Durham. We're talking about Duke getting ready for the NCAA Tournament here today. Kevin, if you will, give us a plug for balldurham.com.
Well, you said it. You can read us at balldurham.com. We got everything you could possibly want here on this Duke NCAA Tournament run. Also on social media, we're on Twitter at ball_Durham. So anything you could possibly want about Duke's NCAA Tournament run. We're talking news and notes, talking obviously game recaps, game previews, games from other Duke players and former coaches in the NCAA tournament. Like right now, we got Northwestern. Looks like they're going to beat Florida Atlantic in overtime. And funny enough, Northwestern, led by Chris Collins, playing in Brooklyn, where Duke is, Brian Young's former school. So we'll have something on that as well. And then obviously, should Duke win, we'll have a lot of previews on what you can expect from the Wisconsin Badgers or James Madison Duke. So anything you could possibly want on this Duke NCAA tournament run, we have it over at Ball Durham.
Yeah, balldurham.com. Go check it all out. Also, ball_Durham on X. We're on X there too at LO_Blue Devils. Let's talk a little bit about the NCAA tournament here. Yesterday, we saw the first slate of games in the round of 64. What were the big storylines you thought from yesterday's action, Kevin?
Well, man, you see the Kentucky Wildcats lose to Oakland. And, I know a lot of players on teams want to play on that first day of March Madness, but as someone who consumes it and obviously follows it, I think it's better for these teams that play on day two. Not that you're going to be amped and totally focused on day one, but if you see some of those upsets, specifically if you're a team like Duke and you see Oakland taking down Kentucky, I think you're going to be you're going to have your ears pinned back a little bit more, realizing that this can happen to anybody at any time. So I know the players want to play on day one. I think it might even be more favorable to them playing on day two. So that was the biggest takeaway. North Carolina, just a dominant victory over Wagner. Not much that Wagner could do against the Tar Heels. They only had 7 guys available to play, and none of them could even come close to the stature of an Armando Bacot. So I think those are the two big storylines. And if anyone was staying up late last night, obviously the controversial ending between Samford and Kansas. Samford nearly erasing a 22-point deficit. Looked like they had a clean block down by 1 with about 10 seconds to go, but a foul was called and Kansas able to ice the game at the free throw line.
Yeah, I loved it. I was so excited to see these games back in action. It reminds us why we love the sport so much, why we love the tournament format so much, unless your team loses, and then you're a little bitter, like I know some of those Kentucky fans out there are. Now Oakland, the 14th seed, moves on. They're going to take on the winner of Texas Tech and NC State. That is the 6-11 game, and obviously we saw that game play out last night. And how about the job that NC State and DJ Burns did once again? 6 wins in a row for the Wolfpack after winning 5 straight to win the ACC tournament and then qualify for the NCAA tournament. And look, they take advantage of the opportunity, Kevin. They won their first game, and now they will play a 14 seed Oakland.
I'll tell you what, man, it was so great watching that game. And every time in the second half, DJ Burns caught the basketball, the arena would just erupt. Even if he had the basketball down on the other end getting a rebound, like everyone would just go crazy. And if he got the ball down on the low block, oh my goodness, the place would just absolutely explode. It was so much fun to watch. This has really been a great run for the Pack.
All right, let's bring it back home. We've got Duke in the ACC getting ready for their first NCAA tournament game in Brooklyn a little bit later today. For those watching us on YouTube, we've got some NCAA tournament numbers for Duke and Vermont. Those games will be played a little bit later tonight, and these numbers from the Duke basketball game notes getting set for a matchup like this. We talked about them a little bit earlier, but a 10-game winning streak for the Catamounts coming into the game after a really impressive run in the American East Conference. What else do you think jumps out to you about this team?
Well, you look at the numbers, and we talked about it a little bit earlier in the week. They don't have one dominant scorer. They don't have a guard who you would think is just going to go out and could score 35 points and really give Duke some trouble. They're a really balanced scoring team. You look at the three-point percentage, they make about 35% of their three-pointers. They do take a lot of three-pointers. And one thing you will say about Vermont, this is a team that expects to be in the NCAA tournament. They are the class of the America East Conference under John Becker. They typically do find their way to the NCAA tournament, winning their conference tournament. So they are not going to be afraid of the moment. Now, yes, obviously, you see that those Duke letters across the chest of your opponent, and maybe you get a little bit of fear, but this is a Vermont team that expects to be in this spot. They expect to win in this spot, and it's not going to be easy for Duke to win this game.
Yeah, Vermont, a really good team, again, that Duke has seen 3 times all time in the history of these two programs. Not since 2013 have they gone head-to-head, of course, so these teams don't have any experience with players on the current roster going up against one another, as they've got a really good coach in John Becker, who's the winningest coach in their school history. That's a name that college basketball junkies are certainly familiar with because of the job that he does year in and year out. But I think Duke's got to be able to kind of keep their composure in a game like this and find a way to just go out there and get the job done, because offensively, I think you got to like a lot of what you see when you look at this Vermont team. The size is the big thing that we talk about in terms of this matchup in particular, given Duke's size advantage. But we've got to make sure that we, again, continue to complement that Vermont offense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you said it best. I mean, this is a Vermont team that they play very well. They can make shots when they need to. They have different players who can score, but the big thing inside is the size. Duke has to dominate the paint. Kyle Filipowski, Mark Mitchell, I think they're both in store for really big games. And if that's the case, then you just need the guards to be complementary roles and then let Flip and Mark eat inside. And I think Duke could come away with a victory.
Really excited to see this game play out. Really excited to see what Duke can do on the offensive end, featuring someone like Kyle Filipowski and the size advantage that he will have against this Vermont team. How big of a factor do you think that will be?
I think it's going to be huge. I think that's going to be the biggest difference in this game. If Flip can get going early and dominate the paint, when he gets the ball on the low block, if he can draw multiple defenders and then kick it out to a Jared McCain or a Jeremy Roach for 3-pointers, I think this could be a really good matchup for Duke, and I think they can come away with a victory.
Let's get ready to set up the game a little bit more after we take one final timeout here on this Friday episode of Locked On Blue Devils. Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by our friends over at Nissan. This week's March Madness bracket highlight is brought to you by our friends at Nissan. Each week we're picking one team that stands out, a team that pushed it further than the rest, just like all of the new 2024 Nissan SUVs. These guys were able to take it to the next level. We're talking about the Michigan State Spartans that can only be described as a pathfinder, as yesterday they had a thrilling first-round win and really created a lane for themselves after knocking off Mississippi State in the first round of the NCAA tournament. Many question if they deserved a spot in the big dance and they find themselves dancing right on in to the second round. Also, the Arizona Wildcats can be described as the Nissan Armada. How about those Oakland Golden Grizzlies? Obviously, this week's Nissan Rogue. The team absolutely surprised us all with a powerful performance yesterday in a first-round upset against the Kentucky Wildcats, giving them their biggest win in program history. They say win life, go rogue, and that's exactly what the Gold Grizzlies have done here. Again, take the Nissan Rogue, the Nissan Pathfinder, or Nissan Armada, and go find your next big adventure. Shop NissanUSA.com. Getting set for the final few moments here of today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. My name is JJ Jackson. I'm joined today by Kevin Connelly, the site expert for Ball Durham. We're talking about Duke against the Vermont Catamounts in the first round of the NCAA Tournament and talking a little bit more about some of the keys to victory for Duke basketball. How about a fast start, a quick start to this one, Kevin?
Yeah, this is a Duke team that has not started quick over the last several games. You look all the way back to the game against North Carolina State in Raleigh. What we say, Duke got themselves
9-0, yeah,
9-0, 12-0 hole, something like that over the first 4 minutes. Obviously, everybody knows about the start against North Carolina in the regular season finale. And then although the start wasn't as dramatically bad because North Carolina State couldn't make a shot in the ACC tournament, it was still a Duke team that could not get off to a good start against the Wolfpack in the postseason. And during that last break, you mentioned about Oakland. I think that was a big thing in Kentucky's game. Kentucky did not get off to a good start. Oakland was 2 of 14 to begin the game shooting the basketball, and Kentucky was just as cold and couldn't really get that early separation. That's what you need when you're a top seed in this tournament. If your opponent comes in a little bit shell-shocked, a little bit nervous, and they're struggling from the field, you have to capitalize on that, because if you don't, it's going to come back to hurt you, and it did to Kentucky last night, and Duke cannot let that happen to them tonight.
Because like Oakland, a team like Vermont then gets confidence, right?
Mm-hmm.
Their shots start to fall, and it's like, okay, you made the point earlier. So many teams do see Duke across the chest, and that means something. Duke is obviously one of the standards in the sport, but if you're out there making shots, forget Duke. I mean, we're obviously playing well. We don't need to worry in a game like this. And I think that's exactly what a Vermont team could do.
And also remember, everybody in the arena roots for the little guy, especially when they're playing a team like Duke, like Kentucky. Yes, there'll be a lot of Duke fans in the building, I would assume, tonight in Brooklyn. But there are also going to be Vermont fans and Wisconsin fans and your regular college basketball fans that are going to be rooting against Duke. So you don't want to, the longer you let Vermont hang around, the more confident that they're going to get, the more the building gets electric, and that's when upsets start to happen.
Give me another key to victory for the Duke basketball team. What are you thinking?
Well, we talked inside, and I think Kyle Filipowski and the rebounding margin are going to be big factors as well. Let's go to the free throw line. This is a Duke team that you can't let Vermont get easy points at the charity stripe because they'll take advantage. And likewise for Duke, with that size advantage, you want Kyle Filipowski and Mark Mitchell to be hacked inside to get to the line. And especially with those two, they have to make free throws because you trust the other guards to make free throws. Yeah. If Flip and Mitchell can make free throws and get this Vermont team in a little bit of foul trouble, then I think Duke will be, I don't want to say in the clear, but I think this is a favorable matchup for Duke if they can do some of the things we laid out here very effectively tonight.
Yeah, got to take advantage of those freebies. And then I think at the same line, a key to victory for Duke is to play tough physical defense without fouling, without putting a team like Vermont at the free throw line to give them an opportunity to make the easy ones.
Yeah, that, and then obviously defending the three-point line as well. If Vermont gets hot, you've got to find a way to run them off the three-point line. And remember, this is a Duke team and a Duke defense that has been really good for the most part of the season, holding their opponents to under their average of scoring in however many games this season. So I'm not as concerned about the defense. I'm more concerned about their offense and how things will work, because John Becker is going to throw a couple of curveballs at Jon Scheyer and this Duke offense.
How deep of a rotation do you think Duke should have in a game like this?
Under Mike Krzyzewski, they typically went 8, maybe 7 in the NCAA tournament. Last year with Jon Scheyer, I think they went about 8 as well. I think they'll probably go 8 again tonight with players getting some time. Obviously, we know who the starting 5 is going to be with Roach, Proctor, McCain, Mitchell, and Filipowski. I think you will see Sean Stewart off the bench. You will see Ryan Young off the bench. I do think you see Jalen Blake's off the bench as well for at least some minutes. I'm not as confident that you see TJ Power unless the game gets out of hand late.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Lately, we've seen a little bit of TJ Power and not as much Jalen Blake. So I think that's a little bit of a flip-flop there of those two guys. Regardless, though, I don't know that the minutes are going to be that crazy for those guys. Like, to your point a little bit earlier in the show, Kevin, I think Duke's going to ride those three guards a long way in a tournament like this. I think Filipowski's going to be asked to be out there for a long while. Got to stay out of foul trouble, though. With that being said, because of the rotation, if you put guys, or if Duke gets in foul trouble, then you've got to ask other guys to step up and play more minutes than they might have initially thought they'd be playing.
Yeah, I think you make a good point about the foul trouble. This team does have to stay out of foul trouble. I do think that, like I said earlier, I think the guards are going to play 35-plus minutes, all three of them tonight. And I wouldn't be surprised if you see Jon Scheyer strategically substitute with Kyle Filipowski to get him breathers a little bit before media timeout. So the under 16, under 12, under 8, and under 4, if he's not in foul trouble, you get him out, say, around the 13-minute mark, and then you bring him back right around the 10-minute mark. So he has a little bit extra time to breathe on the bench during those media timeouts, which are a little bit longer in the NCAA tournament, obviously, for TV and commercial purposes.
We'll see if the line adjusts any more at all today for Duke. Our friends at FanDuel right now have the Blue Devils favored by 12.5 in this one against Vermont. It's prediction time, Kevin. Do you think Duke can get the job done and bring home around a 64 win?
I do. I do think Duke wins, and I think they will cover the spread actually as well. I think this is just a really good matchup for Duke. Vermont doesn't have a lot of big guys. We mentioned they can shoot a lot of threes if they get hot, throw everything out the window, but only shooting just under 35% from three-point range. I think this is a matchup that really favors Duke, and as we all know, the NCAA tournament is all about matchups.
I'm right there with you. Let's have Duke go out there and take advantage of this opportunity and go ahead and play on Sunday. After the Duke game goes final, Wisconsin and James Madison go head-to-head, and the winner of that one will play the winner of Duke and Vermont. Kevin, thanks for the time once again today. Have fun in Brooklyn tonight at the game. Give us one final reminder of all your work.
Well, you can find everything we'll have at balldurham.com. We'll have some other staff writers potentially getting stuff up during the game and obviously after the game and all day on Saturday. We'll have tons of fallout and perhaps preview of Duke's game on Sunday. So certainly we'll be on top of everything over at balldurham.com over the next 24 hours or so. Thanks for the time today, Kevin. We'll do it again soon, okay? Thanks, JJ. All right, that's Kevin Connelly joining us here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. Excited to chat with him here on this one. Excited for Duke basketball a little bit later tonight, taking on Vermont. Let's go get that round of 64 victory. Again, if you're watching us on YouTube, thank you for your support. Please hit that subscribe button. That would be awesome if you were able to do that for us. Also, make sure that you follow us on X at @LO_Blue Devils. Follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Leave us a 5-star rating and written review. That's going to do it for our show here today. As always, go Duke. I'll talk to you again soon. My name is JJ Jackson. Thank you and good day.